Hey YouTube. So today I am really happy because we're going to go ahead and do a POV drive of the 1997 Ford Expedition. This has been in the family now for about 5 years. The engine blew up as soon as we got it, but we had that rebuilt. I'll talk about those issues in a minute. But I want to go ahead and do a POV drive as I haven't done one of this vehicle yet. This is the oldest vehicle in the family, and it's holding up rather well. This one is the Triton 5.4 liter V8 that puts out 230 horsepower with 325 pound-feet of torque. In 1999, the engine was updated to produce 260 horsepower and, if I'm not mistaken, 350 pound-feet of torque. It also came in a smaller engine, the 4.6 liter V8, which put out initially 215 horsepower with, if I'm not mistaken, 290 pound-feet of torque. But when they updated the engine in 1999, only the horsepower really increased to 240. So the 5.4 liter will fare you better, but it does have some known issues with spark plugs and oil. So unfortunately, this one did have that issue upon purchasing it, and the engine had to be rebuilt before we even got to register it. So that kind of sucked, but otherwise it was fine. This does come with a 4-speed automatic transmission. In 1997 and 8, they used the E4 OD from the Bronco, but in 99 and up, they did update it to a 4R100 4-speed auto for the 5.4 liter model. The 4.6 liter did have a 4R70W transmission, which was also a 4-speed for their 4.6 model from 97 to 02. So basically that transmission did not change throughout this particular generation. It's an overall decent driving vehicle. It is showing its age, but it is 24 years old, so it's not necessarily something that is unexpected. The ride quality seems to have gotten a little sloppier over the years, but it's not anything that's uncomfortable. It just means that parts are wearing down, and we will ultimately have to replace them as they go. The engine is still running well. The transmission is still shifting beautifully. Yes, it does come with 230 horsepower, but you will not really feel it for a variety of reasons, one of which is just the sheer weight of the vehicle. It's heavy. On top of that, the 4-speed automatic transmission slips, but it's not a slip in terms of the transmission going bad. What it is the torque converter clutch does not lock up quick enough to actually feel that torque. In this vehicle, it locks up at 30 mile, or in third gear, excuse me, and ultimately it allows the vehicle to accelerate in a more linear fashion. However, when you're in your first and second gears, the torque converter slips the fluid so much that most of your energy is just being converted to heat. So it is a little bit unfortunate, but that was a common behavior of the 4-speed autos in the past. So it's, you know, obviously with newer cars, they have so many clutch discs that basically you could lock up the torque converter in first or second gear and you'll get a linear acceleration all the way around. A little bit different, but it's not at all uncomfortable. It's just the technology wasn't there at the time. So overall, it's still holding up rather well. And I have to say, it's a very neat riding vehicle. A lot of people, you know, bag on Ford, found on roadside dead and such, and I do too as well. And I also bag on Chevy and I bag on Dodge because at the end of the day, there have been a lot of issues with each particular, you know, make. But I have to admit, the Expedition kind of supersedes like expectations when it comes to reliability. This particular generation was handmade, so a lot of your features that fail in the newer models, well, that's because it was made on an assembly line. These ones, not so much. They were handmade and better made, so they tend to last a lot longer. I would also choose this over an Explorer for a variety of reasons. For one, it's a little bit more comfortable, and two, the Explorer is known to have a significant amount of transmission problems, especially with the 4.0 V6. I think it's like the 5R55W or something like that. That weird shifting 5-speed automatic definitely shifts weird and sometimes decides not to shift at all. And it's very common for those to go out. So you're better equipped with the Expedition, but you could always be mad at the Expedition as well because it did get rid of the Ford Bronco for a little while. Hopefully in 2021 it comes back. That would be super cool. I've seen some like designs and it's pretty neat. So as you can see, acceleration is really lackluster in this vehicle, and the torque converter is about to engage, and now I can ultimately accelerate a lot better. So until that torque converter clutch locks up, you're kind of in that slow range, unfortunately. But would you rather have this, or would you rather have a CVT that can't tow? Because a lot of you folks are probably going to want to tow with these, which this can handle. This does have an optional overdrive button, so you can turn the overdrive off. Pretty common on other models of Ford where the overdrive actually fails, so you're kind of stuck in the first 3 gears. The solution is to leave the overdrive off, but unfortunately it does reduce your gas mileage pretty significantly due to higher cruising RPMs. We've always driven with it on. It's not really had an issue, but I do notice that when I'm doing around 35 miles an hour, I will turn the overdrive off because it does tend to hunt between 3rd and 4th a lot. Well, this is kind of a bust. Like, what's going on? Why am I getting so much traffic? Oh yeah, the state cone of Nevada is, or the state flower of Nevada is the cone. Air conditioner still works rather nicely. It is 115 outside, so it's hot. This week is gonna be really, really hot. One thing we have noticed in this one too is it does tend to eat brakes, and it does it very quickly, and we don't know why, because the calipers have been looked at, they're fine, and it just eats brakes rather quickly. But then again, I'm not sure of the driving habits of my stepfather, who uses this as a daily, so it could be that he is hitting them hard, or it could be that, the brakes on these just go very quickly. One thing I also do like about this is that it is a rear-wheel drive, so the feel of it is rather nice. You can put it in all 4-wheel drive. It does have the button for it, and that's actually how we found out the transfer case was fried, because we had it in 4-wheel drive and couldn't get it to release, and the light got stuck on. I actually made a video of that in the past. It's so warm outside, good lord. Those fans are working hard. So I'll try to get a little bit more of an acceleration here. I picked the worst road to go down. Oh my gosh, Karen, drive. I'll admit though, this vehicle is very well behaved. It's definitely a favorite. I am going to take you guys on the highway because I want you to see how it does behave on the highway. We're going to talk about things in terms of road noise, if this person will freaking turn. Good God, move. Alright guys, let's get onto the highway and get rid of these terrible, terrible drivers. And here we go. We're gonna do a little bit of a harder acceleration, none that's gonna blow up the engine, but here we go. Torque converter's locked up. And we are A-okay, we are cruising. So I did mention before that the suspension is a little rough. Maybe I didn't, but the suspension is a little rough, and that's probably just due to old aging parts, but it still is well behaved. Vibration at 65 to 70 miles an hour is still slightly present. I've mentioned that in my previous videos, but it's not as present. So I have a feeling rebuilding the transfer case or getting a new one, whatever my parents did, helped. So that's good. But it is stable. It's high, but it's stable. Feels planted. But the steering is abnormally light, and that's something that I'm not a fan of. I feel like it should be a little bit heavier because of the type of vehicle it is. So it is a little bit of a letdown, but I do like the hydraulic power steering over the electric. It feels less artificial. So that's something I like. That whistling noise that you hear, that's actually when the air compressor kicks on, it makes that noise. It always has, despite getting a new compressor, a new belt, and all that stuff. So, Lord knows, but keeps the AC cold, and it's nice. We've had this new compressor on for about 3 years now, and it's given us no issues, so I'm assuming it's fine. If it's not, well, we'll know, it'll blow up eventually. Getting off the highway. Yes, it does disengage the torque converter clutch when you let your foot off the gas, so you go back into slip mode. But it's not too bad. It just makes engine braking harder. Talk about not moving, good lord. Like, that stretch of road back there was pretty obnoxious. I probably edited you guys out though. So it is not easy to go fast in this. Some people, you know, when you get into, let's say, one of the Chargers, for example, it is really easy to go at those high speeds, you know, 100 plus. This vehicle, definitely not. You will notice a little bit of clumsiness around 65. So I'd have to say that this is good for long trips, but it was good when speed limits were 55 or lower. As you hit the higher speeds, it definitely is not wanting to go that fast. Highest I've probably had it was 85 before I started feeling a little uncomfortable. Granted, it was fine, it could do it, but there's certain cars that you feel comfortable going fast in, and this one isn't necessarily one of them. It does feel sluggish. You do notice that, you know, with it only having 4 gears, yes, the torque definitely helps, but it's not fast by any means. It really does not want to take off. It really wants to take its time. So it's ultimately good in terms of being a cruiser, but off the line, it's just very slow, and that's due to, you know, for one, it's tall gearing, its lack of early torque converter lockup, and also just, you know, the weight. It's a very heavy vehicle. Had this been front wheel drive, I feel like it would have been probably 10 times worse. I really do like rear wheel drive vehicles. I think they drive phenomenally better. Makes donuts easier, like I've mentioned in my Charger video, but it just, you know, I think rear wheel drive vehicles, they don't handle as sloppy because you're not pulling the weight, you're controlling where the weight's going. So I like it a lot better than that of a front wheel drive. I much prefer all wheel drive just because I like the stable feel, but unfortunately this one came with all 4-wheel drive. So if I'm not mistaken, someone please correct me in the comments, it's not the same as all-wheel drive. The power is still transferred differently between the wheels in the front and the back. So I'm not quite sure. I'm not sure if it's a limited slip in the front and the rear or something like that. So I would love the correction on that, because I'm not quite sure. That was actually something I forgot to look up. Because it definitely feels like I do get torque steer, so I think it might be a regular differential. I'm not quite certain. Watch my cousin Vinny to actually get the difference, because it's absolutely hilarious the way Marissa Tomei explains it. It's a limited slip differential. That car had an independent rear suspension. Hopefully, guys, the camera angle works. Unfortunately, the seat in this vehicle, the motor did go out, so I can't get it to go forward and back. So I've been moving the steering wheel like crazy trying to get a new angle. So if it is slightly off, I am sincerely sorry. There is just nothing I could do besides lean extraordinarily far back, but then I can't see over the steering wheel. So unfortunately, I just have to live with that one. All right, so with that, I'm gonna go ahead and let you guys go. I really appreciate you watching. Please like, subscribe, leave comments. I do love reading them, and I also get really good ideas from you guys. So if you guys do have any questions, by all means, go ahead and leave them in the comments. I'm trying to be as responsive as possible, so ultimately if I do get that notification, I will be on it in terms of commenting. So without further ado, I appreciate you guys watching this, and I will see you with another video. Thanks for watching.